Good morning, guys. How are you? I'm going to apologize in advance if my voice cracks, because that's been happening. So, just saying that. This first song is called Our God. What is
honor to be able to come hang out with you guys. I know y'all have been working through this series called Sun Stand Still. We all been talking about audacious prayers. Audacious prayers are great. They're awesome. I remember one Christmas in particular. I'm sure you've done something like this before, where I asked God for probably about 4 months that I would get an Xbox 360 for Christmas. Over and over again, I figured Jesus was a better person to depend on than Santa, and so the Lord says, ask for it, and I'll give you whatever you ask for. So I asked over and over again for Xbox 360. Every night, Lord, give me an Xbox 360. Woke up Christmas, did not have an Xbox 360. Pretty frustrated. It got me and the Lord had some conversation that Christmas about me not receiving this Xbox. But outside of funny things, there are some serious things too that I've prayed for in life. I'm the only Christian in my family, and so I prayed for years and years that my family would come to know Jesus. And it seems like I would pray, wake up, and it would never happen. I would pray, Lord, please give them the desire to go to church. I'd wake up in the morning, and it wouldn't happen. And it was frustrating. For years and years, I felt myself getting angry at God because I felt like He told me if I asked Him, and I felt like these things were something that He would want, like He would want my family to experience Jesus. And it wasn't happening, and it became me doubting God, and I would begin to get disappointed in God. I'm sure all of you have been there before. You've asked God to do things in your life, whether it be breaking an addiction, helping you with a relationship, mending maybe like some turbulence that's going on in your home, helping you become a better student, doing all of these things to help me with these things that seem to be good things that you would be better for, but you wake up and it doesn't happen. So what do you do when you pray the audacious prayers, and what does it mean when it doesn't happen? And a lot of times I think it's because we have a misconception of God and our relationship with God. And I believe there's a verse specifically I want to talk about tonight that a few weeks ago I had the opportunity to go to Israel for about a week, and it was the most incredible trip of my life. And there's so many things I learned that transformed things I read in the Bible before, how I viewed them one way, and found that actually Jesus was saying something completely different. So I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 17, starting at verse 14. It says, when they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him. So this father has a son. Some believe that he's demon-possessed, and the demon was causing something along the lines of epilepsy, where he was having seizures all the time. But in that time, there's no doctors. There's not a lot you can do about that. So the father's kind of stuck, and his son is just going through a literal hell in life. Seizures all the time, it's just not a good experience. And the father's at wit's end. He comes up to the disciples, who he has heard has done healings before, and it says the disciples were unable to do it. Which, I would imagine, is an extremely awkward situation. If you walk up to someone in the hall that you know is hurt, and you go pray healing over them out loud in front of all your friends and classmates, and you get out of it and it doesn't fix, I would imagine this is a pretty awkward moment. That's why many of you would agree that you're probably not going to do that today. You're not going to go up to someone random and try to heal them. The disciples did, it didn't work. So the father comes up to Jesus, tells Jesus, hey, look, I went to the disciples, can you do anything? Jesus responds, he says, you unbelieving and perverse generation. How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Jesus' response sounds pretty harsh. If we put ourselves in the disciples' shoes, we come up and we're like, and Jesus is mad at us, like, wow, I just tried to cast out a demon and it didn't work. Like, can you give me a little bit of grace here? Like, this is something everyone does. But Jesus is pretty upset, and I believe he's upset because the disciples weren't getting a concept that Jesus had been trying to explain to them. Jesus wasn't always going to be there by their side in person to help them with their problems. And so Jesus says something later. The disciples come up in private and they say, Jesus, why couldn't we drive out the demon? And we've been there before. Lord, why can't I break this addiction? Lord, why do my relationships always fall into the same routine? Lord, why do my grades always suck? Lord, why is my family seem to be becoming more and more like dysfunctional? Why does everything in my life seem to be falling apart? I've tried, I've prayed, Lord, and it doesn't seem to be working. Jesus replied, after he said, why we couldn't drive it out, Jesus says, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there. Jesus says, because of faith. Not because of resources, not because of talent, not because of skill, not because you didn't say the right things, but because of faith. Faith, I believe, is something that we misinterpret a lot. A lot of times we view faith, two important things about faith, let's start here, is the source of your faith. We all are people who have faith, regardless if you are a Christian or not, you have faith in things. You put your trust, you allow yourself to be vulnerable with certain things and people. One of the simplest is the chairs. You have faith in that chair to support your weight. There have been times where I have had faith in the chair to support me, and it has let me down very hard. So I tend to be a little bit more selective in the chairs I sit in, the chairs I get faith in. But we do that. We put faith. You put faith in relationships before, and they've let you down. You put faith in certain habits. It could be anything from reading a book is something that you kind of lean on. It could be other things like, as serious as petty. It could be any of those things that you put faith in to fulfill the promise that you think it's going to be able to support you. Well, I can tell you anything outside of Jesus eventually will let you down. If it hasn't let you down yet, it will. So one of the first questions I want to ask, I want you to be thinking about is, where's the source of your faith? What's the thing that you're leaning on in your life? And is it overshadowing? Is it not? Is Jesus greater than that? Is he the greater source of your faith in your life? But that's only half of it. That's only half of it. Jesus says, truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will. For the longest time, I took that literally. And if you're anything like me, there have been times you read that verse, you'll walk outside with the Kennesaw Mountain, hold your hand out and be like, Lord, move this mountain. And you open up and it's still there, and you think literally like, if what Jesus has said is true, the mountain will disappear and pop up in like California. When's the last time you heard about a mountain moving now? Not. And so a lot of times Jesus was over-exaggerating. It doesn't make sense. Why would Jesus say this? Literally 2 weeks ago, it made perfect sense to me. We were sitting at the Temple Mount, and where the temple used to be. And we read through this, and come to find out, when Jesus was born, there was a king, King Herod, who basically oversaw all of Jerusalem. King Herod was very egotistical, all about himself, always wanted to one-up the world, basically. And he did a lot of great things. One of the things he wanted to do was to build a fortress on the highest mountain that overlooked Jerusalem. And this was 2 reasons. For one, because he wanted to prove that he was one of the best kings around. 2, he wanted to prove that he was better than God. He wanted the mountain to be higher than the temple, which is where people would worship God. The problem was the highest mountain that overlooked Jerusalem wasn't fit for a fortress. Well, in Israel, there are mountains everywhere. It's not like there are just hills after hill after hills everywhere. So King Herod calls the people together. And he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go up to the highest mountain. And I want you to take 150 feet, 50 meters off of the top of this mountain. Take it down that mountain and add it to the top of this mountain. So literally, months after months, people would walk up the mountain, grab a rock, grab a bucket of dirt, walk down, and literally move the mountain. So when Jesus was teaching, he could have been looking at that mountain. So truly I tell you, faith the size of a mustard seed. You can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will. A lot of times we read that verse and we view it as a thing of hope. But this isn't a hope issue. Hope is saying, Lord, do this, and then waking up and expecting it to be different. Jesus didn't say the disciples lacked hope. He said they lacked faith. Hope is waiting and asking, Lord, do this. And that's a great start. That's a bad finish. Lord, do this thing. And then you know what you do? You start walking and you go up and you grab a rock. And you take it down. Lord, do this. Lord, break my addiction. You faith walks. You go up and grab a rock. Maybe in your life you've been praying, Lord, break this addiction. And you've been doing what I did for years, and you just stand here and you say, Lord, break this addiction. You wake up and you hope it's not going to happen. That the people in your life you do it with, or the availability of it is going to be gone, and it just doesn't happen. Or, Lord, change my relationships. Let my relationships be pure. And then you date a guy or girl, break up, and you blame it on the guy and girl, and you get back and do the same routine. You think God's just innocent, you're just going to wake up and be different. Maybe there's a friend that you want to meet Jesus, like for me and my family, and you've been praying and praying and praying. Then you wake up and nothing changes. It's not enough to pray for the mountain to move and wake up and be disappointed when it's not moving because you're missing what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying, pray for the mountain to move. Go grab a rock and move it. Jesus said when you pray for an addiction, go out of that prayer, take a step of faith and talk to someone about it. Jesus says if you want someone to meet Jesus, you pray for them to meet Jesus, and you go out and you invite them to church and you talk about Jesus. In the experience, you talk about creating a movement where you can reach hundreds of students that attend your school. It's not enough to show up and pray about it and talk about it. It's getting up, walking, grabbing a rock, and bringing someone here next week. It's doing whatever it takes. Hope waits. Faith walks. We have got to become, us included, we have got to become a people that walks. We got to stop asking God to do great things. We have to continue to ask God to do great things, but not stop there. We have to pray for great things and get up and walk and move mountains. Does that make sense? The activity of your faith will determine the power of your faith that you experience in life. It's not enough to ask God to do great things in your life if you're not willing to take the steps to make that happen. You got to ask God. You got to pray hard and you got to work hard. One of the things that we say in our church is to pray like it depends on God and work as if it depends on you. And when you do that, when you pray for great things and you begin to pursue those great things, even though if you don't know if it's going to happen, you will see the power of God work in your life like never before. I would hate for in the future to look back and go, man, I could have broke this addiction years ago if I would have just taken the steps of faith. I could have experienced greater things that God promises if I would have just taken steps of faith. As you leave here today, identify two things. What's the source of your faith? Is it in God? And when you identify that, what's the activity of your faith look like? Are you taking steps to move mountains? Are you taking steps to get rid of the obstacles in your life or to achieve the greater things that God wants you for your life? Let me pray for you. Lord, I thank you for the students. I thank you for the opportunity to come hang out with them. Lord, for what you're doing and what you've done. And we know that you want to do greater things here. Lord, in the lives of these students, Lord, at the experience at Kennesaw Mountain, Lord, I pray that every student here understands that, Lord, as we ask for great things to happen, that we need the audacity to take steps of faith and walk, pick up a rock, Lord, and move a mountain. Lord, we're grateful for you. Lord, we hold on to your promises. We believe that today will be an incredible day. Lord, we love you and we ask these things in your name.